Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it's time for part 2 of the Q&As, so let's go ahead and knock this out. Alright, first question. Hi Jason, my wife has recently started a 5x5, and she's got her pause bench to 25 kilograms, yet her strict press matches at 25 kilograms, and she swears the press is easier than the bench. Have you ever heard of this happening? Shouldn't your press be around 60 to 70% of your bench? Mine are roughly that ratio, so I literally can't even fathom pressing as much or more than I can bench press. Any thoughts, or is she just a genetic freak without the Zyzz aesthetics? No, brother, she just needs to do more benching. I mean, there are some people like that who are just strong on the overhead press. It means she's got strong delts relative to her pecs. She needs to learn the technique on the bench press, practice the bench press with the same amount of volume that she does the overhead press, and eventually her bench press will surpass her strict press. Like it's not even biologically possible that once they're trained that her bench won't surpass it, because you involve the pectorals and it has a slightly shorter range of motion with another big muscle getting more involvement. So again, right now it's just that her chest is probably really weak and she's struggling with the technique and movement pattern still. And you got to remember that 25 kilogram bench for sets of 5 isn't that strong. I mean, it really isn't. She's still very much a novice at this point. It will balance out in the end. All right, next question. I herniated / slipped a disc in my lower back about a week ago, not focusing on form deadlifting at 365, ramping up to 405 for 5x5. I'm pretty strong and healthy at 35 years old. I'm curious, should I completely stop working out so my body's CNS and red blood cells and such can focus on healing my back? Mentally and with my drive, I want to do a little seated calves, chin-ups, dips with a little cardio on the bike. Thanks for the great content. Keep it up, coach. Okay. Some misnomers here. The slip disc isn't a thing. I actually was told years and years ago that I slipped a disc when I was in high school. Actually, I think it was before high school. I bet you I was 14 or 15. I can't even remember exactly. And it was all sorted out and everything. Chiropractors kind of got it sorted, apparently, is what I was told. I found out later on that slip disc isn't actually a thing. It's not a term anybody uses. It's just herniations. Now, the thing that you need to remember, the deadlifting with a bad form might not have even caused it. At 35, it's really, really common to have a herniated disc or two already. Even for non-lifters, it's really, really common. In fact, probably at least half the population has one walking around. You might have noticed it and became symptomatic when you did the deadlifting. And also goes to show you got to pay attention to your form. No touch and go deadlifts. That seems to be the biggest problem. But that being said, it could have been there already and you just now notice it. Now, in the meantime, as far as however it's healing, work with your medical professionals. They'll tell you what to do. Not really my place to instruct people with back injuries. I'm just not comfortable doing that. So you need to work with your healthcare professionals on that. They can give you whatever advice they can give you, and probably going to be better than what I can tell you. So go to them for the advice. Now, as far as the other stuff goes, the lifts that are safe for you to perform while this healing process is going on, that is not going to interfere with your recovery. Recovering from training for simple upper body stuff and calves and things, I'm sorry, it just doesn't take that many resources. And the actual healing process there for something like that is actually a very microscopic amount of energy in your body being involved. It's very, very little. It's not as like a big deal to where you need to just rest and do nothing else. Because I can tell you right now, when you're hurt, if you quit training completely, you are going to get worse. You're going to get worse. That's the last thing you do. You need to do whatever training you are capable of doing while you're hurt. You know, if you break your leg, you need to be training the other leg. You know, does that make sense? You break your arm, you still need to be squatting, and you still need to be training the other half of your upper body. Like, don't quit training. That's silly. All right, next question. Hi coach, this is sort of a weird question but a long story. I have a disproportionate amount of fat in my lower body compared to my upper body due to training like a complete bro when I was a noob lifter. I never did lower body training. Okay, I'm not going to get into all this. Basically, you got a guy who feels that he looks terrible when he bulks up past 195 due to his fat distribution. Okay, brother. The way that you train has no impact on your fat distribution. Training like a bro did not cause you to store more fat on your lower body. Your genetics is causing you to store more fat on your lower body. You do not have control over that outside of maybe putting various artificial hormones and drugs into your body could affect that to some extent. To some extent. Your genetics determine where you store fat at what rates and where you burn it off at what rates. It's not how you train. That's not a factor at all. Blame your mom and dad, not your training. Now, that being said, okay, if you feel that you look terrible and you can't live with the way you look when you bulk past 195, and again, that's with your current muscle mass and everything, then don't bulk past 195, all right? Clean bulk up to 195, then do a slow cut, and then clean bulk up to 195 again, back and forth, till you are comfortable with the results. If you just feel that you have too much fat, you don't like the way it proportions, and you can't stand it, and it affects your self-esteem, it affects your sense of self-worth and everything else, and don't bulk past that point. That's a simple solution if you can't live with it, right? So just don't bulk that far. Cut back down and then clean bulk again whenever you start getting close to that point. Problem solved. All right, next question. I'm a newly middle-aged guy, and I'm aware I don't have the same ligaments, joints, tendons I did in my 20s. Any tips for telling when you should back off, deload, etc.? And vice versa, any tips for when you should just push through some pain? Well, what are we calling as pain? Pain versus soreness is a big difference. No, you shouldn't push past pain as we get older, right? I mean, squatting is always going to hurt a little bit. Heavy squats are always going to hurt a little bit. But anything that's a sharp pain or whatever, you need to quit. You're getting connective tissue inflammation, back off. I mean, it really is that simple. Your body will tell you as an older lifter when your connective tissue is getting inflamed and you need to deload or back off or cut your isolation worked out or whatever, right? If you're old enough and you know your body well enough, you should be in tune with this stuff as you train. Just pay attention to it. Inflamed connective tissue, inflamed joints is a sign that you need to deload or change something. You don't push through that. You don't ever push through connective tissue pain, particularly as a middle-aged or older lifter. That's when you know you need to back down. And as far as just nagging aches and pains, all right, brother, here's where the reality is going to set home. As we get older, you are going to hurt anyways. You're going to hurt whether you train or not as you get older. Welcome to real life. That's reality. So you might as well train, but just make sure you're feeling just the nagging aches and pains of getting older. Or is it direct connective tissue inflammation from probably overworking that connective tissue from the training? That's what you have to determine the difference between. And you can usually tell when you're training. That's when that connective tissue pain will come out the most. When you're feeling that, it's time to deload, time to back off. All right, and you just got to pay attention to that stuff as you get older. All right, next question. I lift heavy 3 times a week, currently all barbell movements, and I love it. Earlier this week, I went to the chiropractor and was shown I need pelvic/spine/neck correction. Nothing crazy, but things that need to be addressed. They said I shouldn't lift heavy until all the above is taken care of. Because I enjoy it so much, I could lift as long as I go lighter. What should I do specifically, do you think? All right, I'm one of those people, I'm not anti-chiropractor, even though I'm kind of a science-based guy. I actually happen to like chiropractors because I've found them helpful in the past, and maybe that's placebo. Here's the thing. They're saying it's nothing major. You just need some adjustments. Most chiropractors don't lift. They don't know anything about lifting. There are exceptions. If you're just needing some stuff aligned, just keep your training on as normal. Sorry, that's just ridiculous advice. Don't lift heavy. You've been lifting heavy all this time without injury while it hasn't been aligned. Let them put it into place and go do your normal training. Again, if you've got something, a grossly risky problem, you've got some massive problem in your spine or something that people are detecting, that's a little bit different. But if they're just saying you need some pelvic and spine and neck correcting, they can put that stuff where they want it in one day, and you can go do your training and just reinforce it and strengthen it and go back a few times. Look, I did chiropractic while prepping for meets back in the UK, and I continued with my meet preps with the adjustments and everything just kind of being lined up as just a little bit of extra safety, just an insurance policy, whether it was real or not, whether it's just placebo or not, besides the point. I've never had problems doing that. Just remember, most of these chiropractors are not lifters. They're not used to working with serious lifters. So keep that in mind with some of the advice that they give, and that's just my take on it. And you got to remember, chiropractic isn't always accepted by all other health professionals as legitimate. There are medical doctors who think they're quacks. I don't necessarily think they are, but there are a lot of medical doctors who do. So just throwing that out there, and just be aware of that. They aren't lifters themselves, and you're not going to get hurt by lifting with your spine not perfectly aligned. I've never seen this happen in a lifter. Again, go ahead and keep your training going. All right, that's really all I have to say on that today, guys. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.